Aging Parents, or ACAP. My name is Ashlyn Martin, and I, along with Bruce McReynolds, serve as co-chapter coordinators of the ACAP, the Adult Children of Aging Parents here in Guilford County. On behalf of the ACAP Guilford County leadership team, we would like to welcome you to tonight's presentation entitled What to Look For When Visiting Mom and Dad. ACAP Guilford County programs are presented the third Thursday of each month at 7 o'clock p.m. Visit the upcoming events section of the ACAP community website at acapcommunity.org to view the presentations. We hope that you will join us for our upcoming programs. On Thursday, December 16th, we will focus on caregiver compassion fatigue. If you would like to be notified of upcoming programs, you can email us at acapguilfordcounty@gmail.com to get on our mailing list. We invite you to visit the ACAP community website for information on upcoming programs from all of the ACAP chapters. You can also take advantage of expert-led content in our podcast library found on acapcommunity.org. In order to bring our programming to you at no cost, we have some really great organizations that have stepped up to sponsor our activities and monthly programs. In Guilford County, our annual sponsors that make all our chapter activities possible include two core sponsors, Providence Place and Griswold Home Care, as well as our chapter sponsor, Mount Zion Baptist Church. Tonight's program sponsor is Ashley Pritchett with Edward Jones. Ashley asked that we share the following message with you this evening. Originally from High Point, North Carolina, married and a mother of 4 grown young men, I decided early on to follow in my father's footsteps and build a future in the financial industry. Choosing to build a practice in a customer-centric environment, I have the ability to share and give back what has had so generously been given to me. Through networking and community involvement, I had found my niche in both financial management and education. As an Edward Jones financial advisor, I see a future where more people can reach the goals that are important to them. My team and I take the time to get to know you, so we know we're bringing you closer to the future you see for yourself. How we turn your vision into a reality is unique to you. Whether you're planning for retirement, saving for college for children or grandchildren, or just trying to protect the financial future of the ones you care for the most, we will work with you to create a personalized financial strategy with advice, tools, and resources to help you achieve your goals. You can contact Ashley at any time for a complimentary consultation or to set up educational seminars or webinars for you or your community. She looks forward to partnering with you soon. Thank you to Ashley Pritchett with Edward Jones for being our sponsor this evening. So let's jump into our topic of tonight's program, what to look for when visiting mom and dad. We are delighted to have Alexis Williams with us this evening. Alexis is the Executive Director of Caregiver Connect. Caregiver Connect's mission is to serve family caregivers by providing educational opportunities, providing encounter groups, and providing supportive caregiver navigation. Her previous experience as a senior advocate, social worker, respite care director, placement specialist, and care manager are great building blocks to the mission of Caregiver Connect. She is a graduate of Georgia State University with a bachelor's degree in mental health and human services, and has an undergraduate certificate in gerontology. She is a certified senior advisor. When not at work, Alexis is usually trying to keep up with her husband, John, and their 3 children, Jackson, Avery, Charlotte, and Max, their dog. Alexis, thank you so much for being with us this evening, and we'll now turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Ashlyn. Hello, everyone. Happy almost Friday. Delighted that you've joined us this evening. I am excited about talking about this topic because it sort of hits home, but also in the last month or two, I've dealt with lots of families who are anticipating seeing their loved ones after not being with them for quite some time. And so this was sort of really good research for me to think about what they might be anticipating or some helpful hints or tips for them to consider as they go to visit their loved ones over the holidays, especially, I guess we should say, as Thanksgiving is just around the corner. So in my mind, to set the stage a little bit about this topic, what I thought about before I start talking is to think, now, if I'm going to go visit my parents, and it could be, my mom and dad, or my dad and his stepwife, or my mom and her significant other, whichever it may be, I haven't seen them very much. And so what I've learned sometimes is what's on the telephone may not be what it's like when you actually go visit. And so I started thinking about what folks might be interested in ahead of time to pack up and take with them. And then we're going to talk about what to think about when they go to the house. Then think about when they're looking around, what's going on inside the house. And then maybe also how modifications could be made to improve the loved one's aging in place. And then lastly, I'm going to provide some tips with conversation and things to do that make you feel like you're taking action towards addressing possible changes. So let's just think about this for just a second. Our topic is what to think or what to look for when visiting mom or dad. And I'm grateful for this opportunity tonight, and so thankful that ACAP Guilford County offered this opportunity to me, because I see lots of families who come in to Caregiver Connect, or those that call us, and they're interested in what to think about as they go visit their loved ones. So as we think about going into the house, these are some of the things I think maybe you should take with you. So that first slide, Ashlyn, if you don't mind. So again, I'm thinking about, I'm going to go and visit mom and dad, and I haven't been there in a while. So in my mind, what I was thinking was maybe you'd pack a cooler. Now, whether or not you'll use any of the items in the cooler is really not the point. The point is, the cooler that you would take would be items that you would then, once you enter the home, you would put the cold ice pack in the freezer. And so when you open up the freezer door, you can see what's in the freezer at mom and dad's. Then same thing is true with what you might have in the cooler that needs to go in the fridge. You could look in the fridge when you go to put your items away to see, does it look like there's food in there? Is the food not spoiled, or it is spoiled? What are the dates of the items that might be on the door? My sister and I sometimes have a contest about who can find the oldest salad dressing in our parents' door. So if you want to make a game out of it, you could, to see what's the oldest item you can find, and then of course throw it away if it's expired. I always take an empty laundry basket and put it in my trunk, because the idea is more than likely there'll be something that you'll need to take with you on the way home. So I think a empty laundry basket is good. I take extra garbage bags, because as I'm going to see my parents who are aging, I am learning that whatever I can take out of there now that they may not need, want, or they're going to get rid of, that it's easier to go ahead and do that now. So I often bring garbage bags. So the other thing is, I always think bring a laptop and a charging cord, because we're going to try to get some work done, or we might want to look some things up, or there might be symptoms or things that you're addressing that you want to try to pay attention to. Jokingly, but seriously, I suggest you bring a fan, because every time I go visit my parents, it's incredibly warm in the house, and I need to have a fan to be able to sleep at night. So you've got a little white noise going on and a little breeze in the bedroom because it's so warm there. So I bring a fan. I bring a notebook or a notepad to write things down on. I bring a safe step stool. And you may say, well, what's that about? Well, I don't know about you, but my parents oftentimes have not updated their step stool. It's a little rickety, a little bit risky. And when I go to visit, I'm going to be thinking about things more than likely that we need to adjust to a height that's safe for them. So using their step ladder may not be so safe. So I put a step ladder in the trunk of the car. Whether I use it, doesn't matter, but it's there. And then lastly, I tease about the fact that you might need a flashlight or a headlamp, because at my parents' house, sometimes they go to bed really early and they turn all the lights out. And so I have a little flashlight to get to and from the kitchen or to and from the bathroom. So I never think that's a bad idea to travel with a flashlight or a headlamp. So those are my suggestions for thinking ahead before you go on this visit to see your parents. And the idea in seeing your parents might be maybe you're going to try to notice some changes while you're there. Not everybody has changes, but some do as they age. And in my mind, I think what I've experienced is that most people choose to stay in their home as long as they can. So the goal is, what can we do as loved ones to help them with that? Does that mean we consider what's in the house? Do we look around and make some changes? How do we bring up this conversation? So specifically, I'm going to kind of take us through each room to consider tonight what you might look for when you go to visit for the holidays and things to consider or modifications that might be helpful. So when you arrive at the house, what I think it's important to say is you need to address the barriers at the home that might impact aging in place. So when you come inside the house, do you notice where the mailbox is? Is the mailbox way down at the end of the driveway? Is it something that could be maybe moved closer? Could the mail be delivered closer to the house or even at the house? Where is the garbage can? Same thing. Is it way at the curb? Is it something that could be moved? Is the driveway steep? Is it level? And then going into the house, are there steps? Is there a railing, not a railing? How steep are the steps? And then I think for many people, what might be helpful is when you get in, do you notice there's a place to put keys, purse, wallet, a coat? For so many people, I think you find a catch-all place when you come into the house. And sometimes that can cause clutter. And so maybe there might be something to consider with that, is there a way to transition in safely into the home? So then once you're there into the home, same thing we were just talking about, how do you transition? Where do you put things away? And in some houses, you go sort of into the kitchen. And, in my mind, what I think people need to consider in the kitchen if you're aging in place is, are those things that you use on a regular basis accessible? Are you not leaning over to get them? Are you not leaning or stretching way up to get them? So maybe some things to consider is not having the pots and pans up under the cabinet or in the bottom drawer of the stove because you're leaning over. Maybe that might be a modification you could do. How big is the garbage can? Maybe you need a more manageable size garbage can. Cleaning items, are they way up under, hidden in the back, and so it takes a little bit to get to it? Should they maybe be moved to something a little more convenient? Are the dishes really heavy? I know that at our house, we use Fiesta ware, and those Fiesta bowls are really heavy. And so maybe to pay attention to the fact that whether the dishes are heavy or not heavy might be something to consider. Are there night lights? Are there lights in the kitchen that can be easily accessed? Are they way back behind the refrigerator? Sometimes we have the refrigerator moved way back, something to consider. I noticed that when I went to visit my dad not too long ago, that his oven mitts were horrible. And you could put your hand in there and probably burn your hand on a pan. So maybe kind of pay attention while you're there looking around. Could they use a new set of oven mitts, a different set of dish towels? For so many things, they use what they've had for so long that they don't notice the wear and tear on those items. On the topic of a fire or being something hot, where is the smoke detector? Is the smoke detector nearby in the kitchen? Is it not nearby in the kitchen? Maybe there are things to consider like a fire suppressor. I didn't know those things existed, but it's called a cooktop fire suppressor. That basically, if a fire starts on top of a cooktop, it activates and like baking soda comes down. And so if you're seeing changes like that with your loved one, that might be something to consider as a safety measure. I also paid attention most recently when I was at my dad's house to his dish towels and what happens when he might walk from one room to the next with his glass. He's a little unsteady, and so he had a spill. So we came up with the idea that maybe he would use a mop with terry cloth on the bottom versus leaning over with a dish towel and then having a tendency to lean forward and fall. So that might be a suggestion to see, where are the dish towels? Where are the mops? Are they in accessible places? Another thing that we discussed when I was home with my dad was whether or not to just sort of consider what's really convenient. Where do you operate in the kitchen? And do you need to have those things pretty accessible to you? So in my mind, if you have a crock pot that you never use, then why don't you put it out of the way? Don't sit it up on the counter. If you have a frying pan that you use almost every single day, then maybe it needs to go where it's really easy. So while you're there visiting them, maybe make note of what they seem to use a lot and then what they don't use in an effort to kind of move those out of the way and to create a space or a kitchen station, so to speak, that you can use pretty friendly wise or pretty accommodating to them. Last couple of things to think about in the kitchen might be to notice the tools that they have, like the kitchen tools, whether it's a spatula or a big spoon, a fork. For so many that might be dealing with arthritis or neuropathy, it might be easier to have a gripper on there. You can get little foam grippers at the dollar store. You can get putty at the dollar store now and put it on the ends. I know for so many people, they don't really want to throw away their favorite spoon, but if they're really having a hard time managing it, maybe to modify that would be a helpful thing. Then, the other thing I thought about in the kitchen was maybe to put a dot on the microwave where you would have the start button, or on the stove to mark where there's a little line of on and off. I know on my dad's stove, you can't see any of that. And so we went in and put a little red mark where you turn to the right, and that would mean it was low. And then we rode around to the left and put high at the top. So you might just want to notice whether or not that's something that's helpful or not helpful in the kitchen area. So what I'm thinking next, another important room to all of us, is the bathroom. And always, we need to consider the mats on the floor. Are they skid proof, or are they going to slide? You need to have some mats that have some rubber on the bottom so that they don't slide. I think raised toilet seats make things really easier for everybody. I know not everybody likes them, but would they benefit from a raised toilet seat? Same thing is true with grab bars, towel bars. Given thought to where the handheld shower sprayer is on the shower, for so many, I noticed they're way up high where the nozzle comes out of the wall, and that's not helpful. You don't need them leaning way back to reach it. So maybe moving it down where they use it. Now, how you assess that, I don't know. You might have to ask, or go in and see where they leave the sprayer, but that might be something to consider. Do they have a bath bench? Would they be open to a bath bench? Do they need a bath chair? Anything like that? They talk about the fact that so many falls occur inside the tub when they're bathing. It's not so much getting in and out of the tub, but occurring while they're in the tub. So in my mind, it's important to kind of think about maybe if you started with the bench before you thought you needed it, that might be helpful. Also, maybe there is a need for more hooks in the bathroom. You could eliminate towels being way up. You could put a hook lower so they could just reach up and get it. A shower caddy. I know sometimes that they can be high up on a wall, but maybe you could get one in the corner that they're not having, again, to lean way back or to lean over. And then lastly, what I was thinking about, is there a nightlight in the bathroom that might be motion censored? That, if they're coming in with a walker on their own, would a motion sensor be easier to manage than to stop, turn around, turn the light switch on, and then keep motoring over towards where they need to go? Moving from the bathroom into the living area, and that, in my mind, might be where the TV is. You would consider, how's the lighting in there? Is there clutter in there? No clutter in there? I know for some people, clutter makes them feel good, but sometimes it's really a fall hazard. So is there any way to assess, is there something that you could do about the clutter? If they're rugs, I know oftentimes I witness people in their recliners with their little mats under their feet right there at the bottom of the recliner. And oftentimes that's just a gigantic fall hazard that they would trip or stumble coming into the recliner to sit down. So maybe if you could talk them into removing the rug, that would be a good thing, or the mat. Space heaters, what's near the space heater might be something to think about in the living area. Also, the coffee tables. So my dad, again, they have a glass coffee table, and I have asked him several times, Daddy, would you consider a different coffee table? And of course the answer is always no, but every time you go to lay something down, it makes a clang noise. So I'm just always worried that he's going to hit it, they're going to knock it, it's going to break, there's going to be an accident. So maybe less glass would be something to consider in that situation. Thinking on about the bedroom, always lighting is important, just so that you can see where you're going. How tall or how short is the bed? Is it accessible? Is it easy to get on? Do you need a bed rail? Do you need a bed stand? Maybe that just kind of fits up under the mattress to help you get up. Same thing is true with the closet in the bedroom. Is there a way to simplify what's in there, be able to see what's in there? Is the light switch convenient and you're not leaning way back and pulling a cord? Is there a way to kind of touch something on the side? And then also to think about where things are, like if your lamp is on the nightstand, is it really easy for you to get to? Maybe you could go in their bedroom and kind of check things out to see where things were. Really quick with the laundry room, one of the things I read about that I thought was interesting was laundry containers, especially liquid, can be really heavy. And so maybe to look and see if there were options for smaller containers for them, or to use the pods, or to use the detergent that is the powder detergent, so it's not so heavy. But I hadn't thought about that until when I was reading for this event tonight. But it might be smarter for them to have a smaller container instead of a heavy container to use. And then the other thing that I thought about was maybe a basket on wheels, as opposed to a big laundry basket that they would have to bring into the laundry room, might be a good idea. So maybe to look and assess, how do they do their laundry? What do they do? Do they bring it in a basket? Do they drag it in a bag? Is it piled up right there in front of the washing machine? It might be just something to consider, that there might be a different way to get it to the washing machine. And then lastly, a little tidbit about assessing outside area. It might be smart to think about the chairs that they're using. Not always sure rocking chairs are the safest thing when you're dealing with aging parents. Perhaps a sturdy chair with arms on either side. Is there a railing going out that they can easily access the space that they're going out to? And then maybe, is there a change in color from one step to the next so that they can see the change in the threshold? Or are they not being able to see that at all? That's a lot for just anyone to think about when they go to visit. But again, if you have your little notepad with you, you could make some notes when you're visiting and writing those things down when you're checking out their space and visiting your loved one. Any thoughts on that, Ashlyn?
Well, I was just going to say, you've mentioned a lot of really great items, but where do you recommend that people go to find some of these things?
So in researching for this, I found that like Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart had great suggestions. They really had a lot of selection for different things, especially in the kitchen and in the bathroom area. Also, certainly a medical supply store might have some gadgets or some ideas for modifications. And then also you have the internet, and so you could Google different things to see what you could find. I really kind of enjoyed going to the Walmart section in the back, where they had a lot of accessible modification things for the bathroom. And you could actually try the height of the shower stall. You could try, not shower stall, I'm sorry. You could, the toilet, the raised toilet, you could see which height was suitable for you. Same thing for the bath bench. They had one for you to sample to see. The one thing I would tell you to consider is to maybe measure these items or the things that you might need when you're visiting them over the holidays, because, everybody's tub is different. Everybody's height for their shower might be different. So it might be a good idea to take a tape measure with you if you don't think they'll have one, or one that you can really use to see what is an appropriate size for a bench or whatever you might find for them. And these are all great Christmas ideas too, by the way. I was thinking about that. I know it wouldn't go over very well at my house if I brought in a shower bench for everybody, but there were some modifications in the kitchen that I thought would be fun.
Alexis, it almost sounds like we need to find a good handyman while we're visiting mom and dad.
Well, I think if you're not a handyman, then that's probably what you need to think about on your list is you need to make a list of what the handyman can address when you go back, because I think if you plan to live at home and age at home, then you do need to consider some modifications in order to maybe be safe and to maybe remain there longer. If you can remove the obstacles or things that might be fall risk or things that might be a hazard, then, that makes sense to me. That would be a smarter thing to do instead of waiting till the crisis occurs. So speaking of crisis, what I was thinking about with the next slide was that if you were to make some changes in the home, what would they be? So let's say that you were to you've kind of assessed, you've observed what's going on while you're there visiting them, and you're anticipating, like, should mom have hip replacement surgery, and we're needing to navigate the kitchen better, navigate the bathroom better. What are some of those things to think about? So I actually gave a little thought to that if you were to venture into the kitchen and try to make it more accessible, maybe you would consider some type of island. And I noticed that there were islands that were temporary, islands that you could move around, that weren't always fixed. So that might be something that would be really smart, was that you could put an island in the middle and then reel it away and put it out of the way so people could get around pretty easy in the kitchen area. They talked about maybe changing out the fixtures, changing out the handles, giving thought to a refrigerator that maybe you don't lean down, to go into the refrigerator, that you would buy a refrigerator that the doors would open at the top so you could see eye level as to what was in the refrigerator. Another thing they talked about was to maybe move the microwave to a countertop height, or something that wasn't really far away, leaning up or leaning down. Certainly to widen the space where you are, if that's at all possible. And then to think about under counter lighting. And I know that might be pretty easy and temporary, that you could get those little lights that kind of have the sticky on the back, and you can put them up under there, and they can, that doesn't require a handyman, Bruce. So you could just kind of tap that, and turn the light on. Another thing to think about while you're there is if you're noticing hearing loss, or that they tend to not follow you or be distracted, maybe some things to consider would be the headphones that they can put on that are wireless headphones so that only they can hear the TV. I know sometimes at my dad's house, you can have the TV up so high that it's almost hard to think. And of course, he's enjoying every bit of it, but the rest of us, it feels like it's just incredibly loud. So if he could have the headphones on and then we could carry on conversation, that would be a win-win for everybody. Something to think about might be big clocks with big, the opportunities to tell the time instead of, I guess you would say, you could punch the button and it would tell you what time it was in case they were having trouble seeing. You would have a smoke alarm that might be made for somebody who is hard of hearing, so that maybe something would flip the lights back and forth or shake the bed a little bit in case they were having trouble hearing and you needed to be sure that they were safe. The other thing to think about would be their vision. What could you do to improve the vision if you noticed it was really dark in the house while you were there? You could change the lighting, of course. You could change the font on the cell phone. That is one of the easiest things to do. And like, my kids give me the worst time. I bet if I held my cell phone up right now, both of you could read what my phone says because the font is supersized. But that's a really easy trick that I think we forget, that we can help them on their laptop and on their phone to make the font really big. Same thing is true, maybe we need to modify things that we give them so it is bigger. Is their screen on their computer the way it should be? Do we need to modify that for them? Are there magnifying glasses? Can we do contrasting colors so they see the difference in the cabinetry, perhaps? Could you arrange the furniture differently so that maybe if they're really not seeing well, that they can kind of use it as a rail to get to where they need it to be before they sit down? My family loves a big remote so you can see it, but then also so it doesn't get lost in the cushions. A big remote might be a helpful thing for everybody. A big clock, and then of course a big watch with big numbers on it might be helpful. Then some people might think, well, what in the world can we do to improve brain function while they're there? If you're noticing these changes, what in the world can we do to, continue to think of our brain as a muscle and exercise it? In my mind, sometimes it helps folks to have their clutter removed from their space. I think sometimes just the simple act of going through things and kind of straightening up and making their space be more orderly might help someone not feel so overwhelmed. So maybe that would be a good idea. Listening to music, maybe they just have forgotten that they have the radio. Maybe if they've forgotten about how to turn the boombox on or how to turn the TV on and put the music on if they have cable, to have the music running all the time. It could just be that they need to be reminded of music. Could be they would love an Alexa. Maybe they really are technology savvy and an Alexa would be a great thing and they could play music, and they need to be reminded of that and maybe put an index card that says, Alexis, play my favorite playlist, whatever that may be. But just something to consider, that singing, stimulation, something that would bring joy to your life would be good for your brain. What do we need to do to help them continue with their hobbies? If you notice that they're becoming more still at home with the pandemic and things like that, is there anything that we can do to help them maybe continue their gardening, maybe continue exercise, play musical instruments, listen to audiobooks, whatever that may be? Maybe while you're there visiting, try to think about what could we do to bring that back to them. Then last thing I brought up, what can we do to improve socialization? I think, if your house is all cluttered and you're not really comfortable with hosting people, or things have just gotten to the point that you can't move because things hurt, your arthritis is so bad you can't move things out of the way and they tend to be centered around that one chair, then maybe we help them clean that up, and then maybe it makes it more hospitable for people to visit, and or they feel more open to that idea. I think pets are important, so maybe we need to also think about, is there a safe place for pets? Is there a gate that they can put the pet off to the side if they need to? I really like storm doors, and the reason I like that is because if you have a glass door and you lock it and you feel safe with it being locked, if your other door is open, then your neighbors or people outside can see, oh, she got up today and she opened the door. So that's a good thing. So maybe there's a way to make your house more visible to others that you're there, that, you have the blinds open throughout the day, there's sunshine coming in. Just make it more, make you feel better, but then make it more welcoming for others. And then the last thing is, I always kind of, think it's important for families when they're visiting to kind of go out and socialize with the neighbors, say hi next door, say hello, how are you, here visiting mom, I haven't seen you, this pandemic's been crazy. That way too, they know you make that connection, and perhaps phone numbers can be exchanged if you wanted to. I don't know, something to think about.
I think you bring up a lot of great points, Alexis. And one other thing that I would recommend for improving brain function is, I know like your organization and a lot of others during the pandemic have shifted to virtual programming. So definitely checking in with like local senior centers or local agencies, supporting older adults in your community can be another great way just to make sure that they're staying engaged and, somewhat active every day.
Ashlyn, you bring up an excellent point. I know earlier today we were talking about different people that we've come in contact with, and I have a caregiver that I work with that she literally put her laptop on the kitchen table and streamed throughout the day what Senior Resources of Guilford is doing. And that's just kind of what she has going on. And, you know, it could be music, it could be exercise, it could be classes, it could be cooking. You know, we forget that those things are happening all the time. So yes, absolutely. Online events are something that could be helpful. And, you know, the other thing I've learned is it may not just be our organizations that are doing things. There are other organizations that are doing things that we can benefit from as well. So maybe exploring different topics that you enjoy could be a great way to move your brain muscle, but then also kind of also exercise while you're doing it.
Yeah,
I love that idea.
Alexis, the kind of that whole topic of helping our parents connect is so important, especially, you know, they may be feeling some isolation and secludedness and so forth. And I know with, at least with my parents, and I'm sure it's the same with many, is that enabling them to connect through technology is so important. And so it's kind of hard to connect with technology when you live it, you know, a ways away. So taking time during the visit to help them with their passwords and help them connect on their devices and so forth can really be very helpful, I think.
Bruce, you raise an excellent reminder. And my sister and I often do this, but we both carry smartphones, and so does my mom, but she often forgets the process to do things. And so, you know, like with the Fire Stick, what I did was I wrote as big as I could, but as small as I could, and taped the instructions on the back of the Fire Stick. And same is true for trying to help her with getting on her church service. We wrote it out on an index card and put it on the calendar on Sundays. And literally, I did it several times. So I'm like, Mom, practice with me. You're going to put here, you know, you're going to go to search, you're going to put your church in, and then we're going to click here, we're going to click here. And to write it out and keep it there. But then for me to take a picture of it was also really helpful, because inevitably that index card goes away and you have to remember, oh gosh, how do I tell her how to do this? So that's a great idea. We all need to be reminded to use our phone more when we're helping them and visiting them, not just for them to remember, but for us to remember as well. Okay, so let's talk about the fact that you're there and you're visiting your loved ones, and maybe you've seen these changes, but you've kind of been uncomfortable about bringing these up. So I just put it out there tonight, and I gave you 5 possible sentences that you could say to them that might help with conversation about difficult things that you're witnessing or seeing, or topics that you feel just a little bit uncomfortable about. So my first example was to say, Mom or Dad, I notice you're struggling with, and then of course you would fill in the blank. Is there something I could do to support or assist you with that? You know, what I've learned is if we go in with these visits with an agenda, you know, I'm going to go and I'm going to assess and we're going to make changes and then I'm going to leave, that didn't go over so well. In fact, that usually is just miserable. So the fact that maybe you could go in and kind of go down in low gear and kind of think about it from a slow perspective, that you've made these observations, and then what can I do to help you, with the goal that you want them to be as independent as possible, to maintain as much control as possible, but not, you know, screaming and yelling, you know, I saw that you didn't remember XYZ, you know, you need to do something about that, because that more than likely that conversation isn't going to go so well. You know, the other thing, I think we need to seek opportunities as to when to bring things up. And I know right now with the Medicare enrollment timeline occurring, there are just medical insurance commercials on the television all the time. So this was my suggestion, if you needed a segue to kind of talk about insurance, but then to also talk about aging. I was going to say, Mom or Dad, I've seen all of these medical insurance commercials on TV recently. It made me think about your medical insurance. what type of insurance do you have? Why do you have that kind of medical insurance? Because there's so many options now. Truth be told, they may not even know why they have that kind of insurance. So, that's a great thing to ask. And then you could say, how did you figure this out? What does this cost? And then it could be kind of something where you're learning and they're teaching you something. But at the same time, it could be a lead in to other topics that have to go along with aging as well. My third one was, and this kind of isn't the most positive topic, but I think it's very true, is to say something like, Mom or Dad, I've had several friends lose their parents to COVID this past year. It has made me think. How do you see yourself aging in place here in this location? Maybe you all never really talked about that. Maybe they have and they've never shared it. So in my mind, we as children have witnessed this change and experienced this change with our parents. And then maybe bringing this up and saying, hey, it's made me think about it would be a positive thing. And then you could say, do you want to stay here in this house? Do you want to go someplace else? And then that could start the conversation for future planning as well. Number 4 is, this pandemic has brought to light that you really don't know what tomorrow may bring, which is so true. So Mom or Dad, where do you keep your important papers? And then you might say, can we go over them? And then you might say, would you like assistance with putting them together in one safe location? Now, let me back up. What I've learned in all of this is they may tell you where it is, but then you may forget. So what you need to do is maybe take a picture or write it down. And then if they bring it out and you actually have these conversations, maybe you might want to take pictures of it as well, just because it might get put in a different place, or they may put it in a new safe place and forget to tell you. So it's something to think about. And then the last one, again, is not ever an easy topic to address, but I think it's important. And oftentimes families get involved kind of behind the 8 ball on this, is, hey, Mom or Dad, I noticed the back bumper was dented in and there is a long scratch down the right side of the car. Can you tell me what happened? Those things happen. And sometimes it's hard for loved ones to tell us that they've had these things occur because they are painfully trying to hold on to their independence as long as they can. But if there's a way to present it that makes them not be defensive, but then also kind of lets them know you're concerned and willing to try to help with it, maybe that's the more appropriate way to go, I guess, or it might be a healthier way to go. I don't know. What do y'all think?
I think those are great starters for conversations. And I love your approach to not go in with the agenda, but to have things kind of the conversation be organic relative to the current situation.
Absolutely. And while the conversations may be difficult, at the end of the day, you have to remember that you're there to look out for them and that their safety is what's most important. And, we might have to have these conversations, or we might have to make adjustments along the way so that they can stay at home or they can be safe, because that's ultimately what is most important.
Well, and I think too, we've talked about it tonight before our session this evening. Sometimes it can have to do with people's finances, that financially certain options aren't available. So if the idea is to keep it home, to remain at home, then maybe what are the modifications that can take place to keep you safe in this house as long as possible? And also kind of looking at your budget and you being a good steward of your budget, or we being a good steward of your budget to maintain you where you want to be, is something to consider. These next 2 slides, I just wanted to hit because I think sometimes we go with the tendency to want to accomplish things. It's still like, okay, we're going to go, we're going to visit, we're going to knock things out. And sometimes it doesn't always work that way. So I tried to come up with 3 things that I thought would be simple, that while you're visiting them, it would be kind of multi-purpose. You could learn and then it could benefit the parent. So I kind of put this in the category of what can you do that feels like action while you're visiting. So in my mind, we've got this medication topic. And sometimes it's a disaster. And oftentimes it's in a pile on the table and things have not been organized, or it's in a basket, up against the counter, and people just, there's not a system. So maybe the idea is to go through and update the current list of medications. And then if it's possible to make copies, to put medication list maybe in a wallet, on the fridge, on the phone, and maybe you can take a picture and put it on your phone. Maybe you can put it on their phone. You can send it to your sisters, your brothers. Hey, look, this is mom and dad's current medication list as of right now. Then the conversation might be, why are you taking this medicine? Do they even know why they're taking it? And is there a reason, or did it get left over from the previous hospitalization and nobody thought to say, don't take that anymore, because those things happen. The other thing you might consider is, what can you get rid of? If it's not being taken, how can you change that out? What's expired? And then maybe just have what is visible that's only on the list, and kind of clean that up and make a medication station. My second thought was to create a bill station. I don't know about you all, but the mail comes and it packs, it stacks up, and you have insurance information, you have donation opportunities. They have things from, I don't know, Finger Hut, from Walmart, from Belk's, from Best Buy, all these things. And so you need a place to throw things out, but then maybe a place to put the bills. So I sort of like an accordion file that you would label and that you would put the monthly bills in. So you're helping them touch something one time, perhaps. The electricity comes in and you put it in Duke Power section. The gas bill comes in, you put it in the gas section. You might have an insurance section. I know, like Medicare bills and their explanation of benefits, they can kind of stack up and they're kind of cumbersome and you don't know what to do with them. So maybe if you got them out of the way and put them in that stack, or in the accordion file in their area, would be a good idea. I always tell people to kind of have a section for their taxes. If they're given to church, or if they're given away different things throughout the year, then just go ahead and put it in a section for taxes so you can pull it out when you need to. And then I know we always have those keepsakes, those cards that come, or those newspaper articles that they may clip out, or somebody may send them something, or they go to a funeral and there's a program and they want to keep it. Then maybe you put that in that section of the accordion file so it's not in your stack. And then lastly, I thought, it's a good idea to kind of have a communication orientation station. And you may say, orientation, what does that mean? Well, in my mind, so many of us, and I include myself in this, need to know what day it is, orient ourselves. We've had time change. Is it Monday? Is it Tuesday? What month is it? So maybe a really big calendar somewhere in an obvious place. Maybe you have a bulletin board or a whiteboard or a notepad, and that serves as a communication tool. If I get up and I go for a walk around the block and my loved one is going to get up after me, they're going to want to know where I am. So maybe make a habit of leaving notes on those particular places. And then maybe to always have a resting place for your telephone, or it could be a landline, of course, at that particular station. But as messages come in, you could write it down. I know that this sort of seems like, well, doesn't everybody already have these? But my observation is, as we get older, again, they sort of just kind of they get neglected, or they're not as paid as much attention to. So a little refresh with your medication station might be a good thing, or, somebody just to kind of go through and help with the bills. And again, some of it may be considered private. Some of it may, not have the look of a really, you might be dealing with somebody who's in denial about these changes and they don't think they need a communication board. Well, the reality of it is, if you're there and you're seeing the need for it, there might be a need for a suggestion. Hey, Dad, maybe putting up a calendar would help Mom be able to know what day it is. Just a suggestion. So all of these are just suggestions for people to consider. And looking at our time, I've got time really quick. I'll do this last thing. So my thinking was that you're going to spend this time with your family. You're going to make these observations. You might help them make changes. You're going to bring up these conversations. You might have a little action while you're there. But then the last thing is, you're going to go home and want to do something about it. So what I was going to encourage folks to do was to go back and then kind of take some time to learn what county programs might be where they are. Like here in Greensboro, it's the Senior Resources of Guilford. And they are a tremendous wealth of information for a host of different services in the area. So in my mind, they're a great place to start. Senior centers, parks and recreation are all great places to start, because in my mind, they're going to have people who are aging who have sought this information out already, or they have experts who can tell you what to do or make suggestions about what to do. Second, you might want to consider making changes for them by contracting with other people to come in the home. So you might think of a cleaning service. You might think of an in-home care provider, a geriatric care manager, a meal delivery service. Again, we talked about the mail. Could it be delivered at the door? Could they have assistance with the garbage cans going to the curb? I know here in our area that if you call and give, follow what reasons they say and show proof of why you need help, they can assist you with getting your garbage can to the curb, but they can also assist with the smaller garbage cans. So you don't have a really big garbage can that you're having to pull to the curb. And then lastly, maybe folks need help with lawn maintenance, and you could find somebody to help them do that. The third thing I wanted to mention that I think is really important, that I think all three of us would mention, that we see as folks age, it is really important to have talked with someone who is an expert in the field of elder law, to kind of plan ahead to resolve all kind of legal matters, whether you're needing a power of attorney, you're needing wills, you're wanting to think about end of life arrangements, veterans benefits. You want to really consider kind of estate planning or asset protection. And then lastly, what are you thinking about long-term care planning wise? And how can they help you do that? So I realize this is a lot for you to consider, in addition to going and visiting with your loved one and having a wonderful holiday. But we wanted just to hit some highlights as to what might be helpful for everyone. And again, feel free to, I think we could go back through really quick and people could screenshot if they wanted to. Ashlyn, if that was at all possible, was that possible? Just some ideas about what to do. You could take a picture with your phone. It could be a reminder. I think we all have so much going on that anything that can remind us or jog our brain is a really good thing. So thank you for this opportunity tonight. It's been a pleasure to speak with everybody, and I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season.
Alexis, this presentation was so helpful and so informative. And I think it's just important for caregivers to remember planning ahead is crucial. We hope that you'll take the information that you learn, not only from Alexis, but from all of the presenters through ACAP, and really understand that, we're here to help. And we hope that you'll find this information, supportive, and that you can get involved in your local community with an organization or with a group like ACAP that is, going to provide you with that support and that information that you need. And so thank you so much, Alexis, for working with us and for providing this presentation today. Again, we want to thank Ashley Pritchett with Edward Jones for providing our sponsorship this evening. We recommend that you reach out to her if you have any questions about the services that she provides. And we hope that you'll join us again in December for Caregiver Compassion Fatigue on December 16th at 7 p.m. All of the ACAP programs will be available on the ACAP community website. So even if you can't join us live on December 16th, just know that you will be able to go back onto the ACAP community website to view those programs. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Alexis, and we hope that everyone has a wonderful evening and a wonderful Thanksgiving.